You see it everywhere these days. Twitter threads, Reddit rants, podcast clips. Capitalism is broken. Capitalism is evil. Capitalism is why we can't have nice things. People are mad, and honestly, they should be, because the system is rigged. The rules are stacked, and the outcomes feel more unfair by the day. But here's the problem. Most people are blaming the wrong thing. I'm not here to simp for capitalism. I don't base my identity on a theoretical economic system. I base it on a fairy tale magic internet coin, duh. But the point is, we don't actually live under capitalism. I'm talking about the US, but it goes for everywhere else that's supposedly a capitalist country. We don't live under capitalism, and we don't have free markets. The billionaires ballooning their net worth while your rent doubles? Not capitalism. The economy rigged against the middle class? Not capitalism. The endless cycle of boom, bust, bailout? Not capitalism. We live in something else entirely. Something even more dangerous. A hybrid monster where the government controls the money printer and central banks pull the strings of the entire economy. The game isn't broken because of capitalism. It's broken because the referee is rigging the score. So when people say they hate capitalism, what they really hate is fiat money. The manipulated money supply, the hidden tax of inflation, the asset bubbles and bailouts, and fake interest rates. The system that steals from workers and savers to enrich asset holders. It's the fiat money printer, not the free market, that's been robbing you blind. You don't hate capitalism. You hate fiat money. You just haven't been shown the difference yet. So that's what we're doing today. First, real quick, I'm John from My Favorite Thing About Bitcoin. Been studying Bitcoin for several years. Created this channel with the goal of helping other people better understand and grow their conviction in Bitcoin. If that sounds like something you're interested in, hit the subscribe button. All right, let's start here. When people say they hate capitalism, they're not reading from Adam Smith. They're looking around and seeing a world that feels rigged. The rich are getting richer, CEO pay skyrocketing, the top 1% owning more than the bottom 90% combined. Meanwhile, wages stagnate, debt explodes, and young people can't afford homes, kids, or healthcare. They think the economic system we're living under is breaking down. They see the hedge funds making billions while nurses work double shifts. They see billionaires taking joyrides to space while 60% of Americans live paycheck to paycheck. And they go, yeah, this system is messed up. Something's wrong here. But the twist is, none of that requires capitalism to exist. You don't need free markets to create billionaires with yachts and a middle class drowning in credit card debt. You just need a system that creates the wrong incentives, rewards the people closest to the money printer, and punishes everyone else. The problem isn't capitalism, it's the distortion. It's that we've taken the idea of free markets and wrapped it in a straitjacket of manipulated interest rates, asset pumping, and moral hazard. People are mad at inequality, and people are mad at greed, and people are mad at rigged games and fixed outcomes, and they're right to be mad. But if you're blaming capitalism for a game that isn't even actually being played by capitalist rules, you're shadowboxing against a ghost. Because meanwhile, the real culprit is in the back room running the money printer. The part I really don't feel like I see anyone talking about is that we don't actually live under capitalism. We live in a simulation of capitalism overlaid with central planning and monetary manipulation. Real capitalism would mean free exchange, voluntary trade, transparent price signals, winners and losers based on real value creation, not political connections. What we have instead is a game where central banks control the price of money, where the government picks winners and losers with bailouts, subsidies, and backroom deals, and where risk gets socialized and reward gets privatized. That's not capitalism. That's cronyism with a fiat rocket engine strapped to the back of it. The interest rate, which is the most important signal in a functioning market, isn't discovered anymore. It's dictated. The cost of borrowing isn't set by supply and demand. It's set by 12 people in a room behind closed doors, controlling the most important price in the economy for hundreds of millions of others by decree, not by free market forces. And then they pretend that the market is free. It's like putting a toddler behind the wheel, watching him crash into traffic, and then blaming the car for the accident. By the way, if you didn't know this already, one of the key planks of the Communist Manifesto is government control of the money supply. I got that from my guy Cole Walmsley, who I just did an interview with recently. So if you haven't watched that, you're going to want to watch that interview. I can put it right here. But if you think we live under unfettered capitalism, You might want to check your monetary plumbing because we've got price controls on the cost of money. We've got top-down manipulation of asset markets, and we got a government monopoly on money creation. So call it whatever you want, oligarchy or crony capitalism, but it's definitely not true capitalism. And the real truth is we shouldn't be arguing about what economic system we should be living under or what it's called. We should be talking about the real villain here, which is fiat money. Quick pause to say I hope you're liking the video. If you are, you can hit the like button, hit the subscribe button. You can zap me sats via your Lightning wallet with the QR code on the screen. And if you have thoughts about the video or comment or a question about Bitcoin, put it in the comments. Back to the video. Most people do not realize it, but the second you give a central authority the power to print money at will, you've just given them a giant cheat code. Because fiat money isn't backed by anything real. It's not mined, it's not earned, it's just conjured out of nothing. And once that becomes the foundation of your entire economy, all bets are off. Because guess what? When the government prints newly created money, they don't just mail it out evenly to everyone. It goes to the tippy top first. It goes to the banks, the hedge funds, and the government contractors. That's called the Cantillon effect. And those people can use fresh money to buy assets, stocks, real estate, commodities, before the prices go up. By the time that money trickles down to the rest of us, it's already devalued. And the price of everything we need, housing, food, education, has already exploded. That's not a market failure. That's fiat policy by design. And you want to know why the rich keep getting richer? It's not just that they hustle more than you. Some of them might not. But in reality, it's proximity to the money printer. You want to know why wages can't keep up with housing prices? Because wages come after money printing. And inflation hits the poor first and hardest. Inflation is a two-sided coin. Makes the cost of everything you need to buy in your day-to-day life go up and pumps the price of all the assets you wish you could buy. So it's not capitalism making you poorer. It's the silent tax of inflation, the tax you never voted for, and the tax that doesn't show up on your paycheck. But it bleeds your savings and shifts the wealth up the ladder every single year. So once you understand how fiat money works, the rest of the dysfunction starts to make more sense. Because once you rig the price of money, you rig everything that depends on it, which is literally the entire economy. Interest rates are supposed to be a signal. They tell us how scarce money is. They balance savings and borrowing. They force capital to go where it's most needed. But when the Fed artificially slashes rates to zero, that signal is completely broken. Capital floods into speculation. Zombie companies get free money to stay alive, and real savers get wrecked. And it creates fake markets. Stocks don't go up because companies innovate. They just go up because the cost of capital is near zero and buybacks are subsidized by cheap debt. Housing doesn't get more expensive because it's valuable. It gets more expensive because there's more newly printed money that can chase the same number of homes. So the working class gets priced out while asset holders watch their net worth skyrocket. That's not capitalism-fueled asset inflation. It's fiat-fueled asset inflation. It's a game of monopoly where one player gets handed new money every turn and everyone else is stuck trying to pass go. And when these asset bubbles get pumped to the max by fake debt-fueled fiat and the crash inevitably comes, who gets bailed out? It's the same people who took the most risk. Fiat money doesn't just distort the market, it destroys the feedback loops that make capitalism work in the first place. Because when failure gets papered over with printed money, you don't get a free market, you have a completely rigged one. And when it gets bad enough, it goes from frustrating to dangerous. Because when people see this giant mess, the rigged markets, the inequality, and the economic despair adding up, they look for answers. And the loudest voices say, this is capitalism's fault. So let's burn it down. Let's go full socialism. Let the government fix all of it. But wait, if you've been listening, if you've been paying attention, wasn't it government control of the money that got us here in the first place? Maybe you haven't brushed up on your Karl Marx in a while, but if you remember the Communist Manifesto, the fifth plank of the manifesto explicitly states centralization of credit in the hands of the state by means of a national bank with state capital and exclusive monopoly. Shout out to my guy Cole Walmsley, who I learned that from, who I just did an interview with on my channel. You can watch that right here. So do you see the problem? By definition, one of the key components of our economy that we have right now is not capitalist, it's communist. So blaming capitalism and running to socialism to fix that problem doesn't exactly add up. If fiat money and top-down manipulation are causing the problems, how does giving the government even more control fix anything? That's not unplugging the system, that's doubling down on it. Socialism just means more central planning, more price fixing, more attempts to override supply and demand with wishful thinking and bureaucracy. And this video is not about attacking socialism, but I think we've seen in reality how some of that plays out. Shortages, stagnation, and systems where the rich still get richer, they just wear government badges while they do it. If the patient is sick from poison, you don't treat them by injecting more of it. Misdiagnosing the problem doesn't just waste time, it pushes people towards solutions that actually make it worse. So yes, your anger is real. The system is unfair. But don't let that anger steer you toward the wrong solution. The answer isn't to trust the same people who rigged the game to somehow unrig it. The answer is to stop giving them the tools to do it in the first place. In 1984, Friedrich Hayek said, "I don't believe we shall ever have a good money again before we take the thing out of the hands of government. We can't take it violently. All we can do is by some sly, roundabout way, introduce something they can't stop." Perhaps one of the most prescient quotes I've ever heard in my life. Because what is the answer? It's not more central planning. It's not more government control. And it sure as hell isn't more money printing. The answer is simple. Kill the fiat money printer. Remove the power to create money out of thin air. Unplug the machine that rigs the market before the game ever even starts. Because once you do that, once money has to be earned, not printed, everything else gets clearer. Interest rates reflect real risk. Savings start to matter again, and debt stops being a subsidy. And maybe most important of all, the free market actually becomes free again. No more bailouts for billionaires, no more asset bubbles driven by manipulated liquidity, no more stealing from the future to fund the illusions of the present. I'm not saying that means capitalism becomes perfect. It's still going to have its warts. Markets are very messy. Winners will still win, and some people will still lose. But at least they'll lose more fair and square. Not because the ref was bought and the scoreboard was hacked. This is why sound money matters. Whether it's a gold standard or a Bitcoin standard or something else, the point of this video is to advocate for sound money. But in reality, do I think we're ever going back to gold? In all practicality, no chance. Gold already had its chance, and it failed once. That's why we ended up with fiat in the first place, because gold couldn't scale globally without introducing trust and custodianship. Governments hoarded it, banks controlled it, and eventually they just cut the tether. Bitcoin fixes that problem. It's digital, decentralized, and nobody can confiscate it or print more of it. Sound money for the digital age with no middlemen required. That's why the answer isn't just to kill the fiat system or to go back to the gold standard. It's to replace it with a Bitcoin standard, a monetary base that no one controls, no one can debase, no one can print more of, and everyone can verify. What matters is that the money can't be manipulated by a handful of unelected bureaucrats. Because once money is free, markets can be too. And that's how you fix it. Not by burning down capitalism altogether, but by unplugging the printer that's been poisoning it for decades. If you're angry about the way things are going, you're not alone. But before you throw capitalism under the bus, you need to ask, are you mad at the market or are you mad at the money? Because now, hopefully, you're better understanding the role fiat plays. And once you see how the money printer distorts everything it touches, you realize the problem was never capitalism to begin with. It was the fiat system that's hijacking it. So if you want a fairer world, don't burn the free market, free the money. And if this video helped you see that a little more clearly, you do me a favor, you can hit the like button, hit the subscribe button, share this with somebody who thinks capitalism is still the enemy, because once they understand fiat, they'll never see the system in the same way again. Strangely enough, I didn't actually talk a lot about Bitcoin in this video. So if you want to better understand Bitcoin, I'll link a video right here that you can watch, because the most important thing you never want to forget is that Bitcoin is inevitable.